The smartest people in the room are often the ones moving the slowest in life. They understand success better than most, yet remain far from it. Every decision becomes a simulation that never ends. You call it thinking, but it feels like delay you cannot explain. Smart minds don't stop because they lack answers. They stop because they see too many. Planning becomes a safe place where action is no longer required. The more they understand, the more dangerous every step feels. They begin to confuse awareness with progress. And slowly, the life they plan becomes the life they never start. But this is not procrastination. Something deeper is happening inside the mind. Intelligence convinces you that hesitation is wisdom. Every choice becomes a calculation designed to avoid regret. But avoiding regret slowly creates something worse: stagnation. Perfection becomes the excuse that sounds the most intelligent. The mind protects you from failure by preventing motion altogether. Too many possibilities begin to feel like no path at all. At some point, thinking stops serving clarity. It starts feeding fear disguised as intelligence. And the longer they wait, the safer staying stuck begins to feel. But comfort is not the real danger. What it replaces is. Behind every overthinking mind is an emotion it refuses to feel. Thinking becomes the safest place to avoid discomfort, because action requires feeling, and feeling is unpredictable. The brain treats uncertainty like physical danger, so it builds scenarios instead of experiences. But every scenario avoids one thing: reality, because reality cannot be controlled the way thoughts can. So intelligence chooses control over experience, and slowly, life becomes something observed, not lived. The mind begins to believe observation is participation, but watching life is not the same as touching it. At some point, intelligence stops expanding your world. It starts defending it, not from danger, but from discomfort. Every delay is a negotiation with fear. Fear doesn't stop action. It redirects it into thinking. So the smartest mind becomes the most efficient at avoiding risk, until avoidance feels like identity. And breaking that identity feels like losing control. But what they don't realize is control was never real. The moment you try to act, the mind becomes loud again. It doesn't stop you with fear of failure. It stops you with questions. What if it's not the right time? That question alone can pause an entire life. Not because it's true, but because it feels responsible. No one ever feels fully ready. Readiness is not discovered. It is created, but the mind resists anything it cannot simulate, because real action removes control from imagination, and that loss feels like danger. So the mind returns you to thinking, where nothing can fail, but nothing can succeed there either. At some point, comfort becomes exhaustion, because you are tired of thinking about living, and something inside you begins to reject safety, not because fear disappears, but because waiting becomes worse than uncertainty. You are no longer your thoughts. You are the one who notices them, and that changes everything that follows. Clarity never comes before movement. It follows it. The mind only stops spiraling when the body starts acting. Fear doesn't disappear. It loses authority. You were never someone who thinks too much. You were someone who waited too long to begin. The first step was never meant to feel certain. Freedom is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move with it. And suddenly, the noise in your mind becomes quieter. Not because life is simpler, but because you stop trying to solve it all in your head. Life was never waiting for the perfect plan. It was waiting for participation. And the moment you begin, everything you were overthinking starts to dissolve. So the real question was never why you're stuck. Was your mind ever your problem, or just your safest hiding place?